think we're good to go. So yes, welcome everyone. You know, we were kicking around topics for the second half of the year, and EDI popped up, and I thought, hey, that would be a cool topic because a lot has been happening with it. Obviously, supply chain issues have ballooned to be front page news, which is pretty interesting. And so a very timely topic, and especially as BC continues to evolve and the technologies continue to evolve. You know, it's been a while, I've been around for quite a while, but quite honestly, I haven't kept up with what the latest developments are. And so here we are, we're going to talk about EDI today. And so welcome everyone. Glad that you have joined. I am guessing if you're here, you are definitely interested in some particular aspect of EDI. And so before we jump into that, of course, we're going to go ahead and get you caught up to date with community events and then also our themed cocktail. And let me go ahead and get us moving on that. So I want to let you know next month, you may have noticed that we're drawing to the end of 2021, and it's awfully hard to think about 2022 already, but thought it would be nice to have everybody contribute tips and tricks for year-end prep. And this is not just for the finance team, but certainly inventory, getting ready for auditors, everything else associated with that. So I'm going to be reaching out to everybody on Meetup to collect your tips, and then we'll just have a kind of a roundtable discussion around this in November. So of course, if you're subscribed to Meetup, you'll get a notice about this. Go ahead and register for that. And as always, we're recording this and we'll throw it out on the YouTube channel if you miss a meeting. And so hopefully you're looking forward to that. And then also, you probably have heard DynamicsCon Live is coming up. Is it no, 2 weeks still. 2 weeks in Anaheim. Molly's been doing some really entertaining videos out there, advertising and showing you the space and what's happening out there. So hopefully you get a chance to take a look at that. And with that, I'm trying to remember the sequence because we got a poll to do as well. But let's talk about our surprise themed drink for October. In fact, Kim's calling it the October surprise, and there's going to be quite a surprise involved, but I'm not going to give it away. We're just going to have to see what the surprise is. So let's take a look at what Kim's got in store for us.
Mark, we don't hear sound.
Yeah, we have no volume.
Thank you. I would hold on.
That was the surprise.
Stop. Hold on. I was wondering if I forgot to include the sound, and I did. Give me a second. Okay, get back to square one on that. And food computer sound. There we go. Now we're okay there. I apologize for that. Let's get that restarted. There we go.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of World's Worst Bartenders. My name is Kim Congleton, and I am the world's worst bartender, as we all know by now. Some of you were a little concerned after the last Mix It Up with the amount of tequila I drank. It was a fair amount, and I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty much done for the rest of the day. So, but I was in a really good mood. I was very happy. That tequila made me very happy. So anybody that was worried, I survived. I was fine. I think I ate like 5 pieces of pizza after that to soak it all up, but everything was all good. So on this edition of World's Worst Bartender, I might have ran out of ideas for a drink, and I'm kind of protesting the the fact that it's October. I kind of am not ready for summer to be over. So the drink this time is called the October Surprise, and meaning, oh, hey, surprise, it's October, and not summer. So I wanted to kind of just have something a little light and refreshing. So as you notice, I have a little tequila here, and I have a little Sprite. I mean, you know, just a little Sprite and tequila. We'll put a little Sprite in there. And then we're going to put a little bit of tequila in there. And you might notice it looks maybe not like tequila. Probably because it isn't tequila. And I kind of felt like I was cheating by having vodka, but I've really actually become pretty addicted to this Absolute Juice and Sprite. It's got a strawberry in it. It's really good, actually. So just kind of, and it's very summer drink to me. It's very light and refreshing. So if you can find this, I highly recommend it. I know it's not tequila. Feels a little bit like cheating because it isn't tequila. But it's probably the only thing that I really actually like besides tequila. So it feels really weird to say that. But if you find this, definitely try it because it is really good. So a little bit of that, a little bit of Sprite. It's so good. Give it a try. We also have a new segment on the World's Worst Bartender. I want to give a big shout out to Rob for the heavy pour of the month since our last meeting. So Rob, this is for you. I'm sure he can tell you about his heavy pour. I don't know, maybe there's video, maybe there's pictures. I'm sure there is. But so each month we'll award the heavy pour of the month, which isn't me. I mean, it's a given that I'm winning it every month. But, you know, send your pictures in, send your suggestions for the winner for heavy pour of the month. So, Rob, this is for you. Congrats. I'm super proud of you. Obviously, you've learned something from my bartending. So thanks a lot. And I hope you guys enjoy this edition of Mix It Up. Thanks. Bye. Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
All right. Apparently that's not
welcome
working.
to another edition of.
There we go. Okay. So yes, surprise.
I
Who
feel like-
ever thought we
Mark,
would?
I feel like we need the pictures of Rob.
Well, I don't know where those are. So hopefully those will surface, but I never would have bet that Kim would have made a drink without tequila. So that is a surprise. All right, folks, before we jump in and introduce our panel, wanted to find out where everybody is in terms of their level of understanding and experience with EDI, because the panel really wanted to target the discussion. It's probably a wide range out there of experiences, but let's try and figure out if there is a good starting point and where to jump in on that. So with any luck, this poll that I've done with Teams in advance will actually load. And hopefully you see a poll there. So if you would kindly let us know where you stand with EDI, it'll really help the panel out. So shared. And let me give it a couple more seconds. It's my first time running a poll inside the meeting like this, so.
You did very well. Thank you.
So let's see. View results. Okay. Can everybody see these results? Okay, super. So I don't know why it truncates that, but all right. So we do no absolute newbies on the call, which I was wondering where these would come. I figured it would be around the kind of the had some experience level, but that's pretty heavily weighted there. But we do have quite a few that have worked quite a bit in EDI. So good. We can talk about some advanced topics today and get into areas that I know nothing about, which will be pretty interesting. So with that, let's go ahead and have the panel introduce themselves, and then let me set up the discussion. But let's go around the room and find out who's on our panel today. Lewis, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Lewis Rosenberg. I'm the IT manager at Mars Fishcare, and I do everything there IT locally, plus, of course, Nav and Business Central. And now I'm doing the same for Mars Horse Care. So EDI is just one thing that I do out of many in supporting Business Central. I've also been involved with the planning committee for NAVUG for many years, and I was chair for the advisory panel or the advisory committee for 2 years.
Mhm. Excellent. Thanks. And thanks for joining us today, Lewis. Shawn?
Hi, Shawn Sissenwein. I have a love-hate relationship with EDI. Mostly love it, hate it when it doesn't work, but when everything comes in, it's great. I've been working in the vision for 20 plus years and have done a lot of different things, but EDI just happens to be one of my passion areas. So glad you guys could all make it today.
Thank you. Yeah. Bill, thanks for stepping in today. Would you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Bill Solano, and I'm the Senior EDI Technical Specialist. I have the longest title at Lumistella Company. So that's my distinction. But I have been working in EDI as both a consultant and as a end user since 1996. So it's been a while, and I've seen it evolve quite a bit. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what different opinions we have about EDI, but yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks, Bill. And Josh.
Hello, everyone. I'm Josh Standard. I have been running or co-running Osprey's EDI program for the last 8 years at Osprey PAX, where I am the now VC developer and EDI senior professional. Like Bill, I think I have the distinction of having about the longest title in the company. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and ready for some good questions and discussion.
Fantastic. Thanks, Josh. So yeah, the panel, I worked with the panel to put a few questions together before today, of course, to kind of guide the conversation. The panel also put together a few slides to share. We very much want this to be an open discussion. And so as much as you want to contribute to the discussion, ask questions with the panel and of the group, let's do it. Let's just have a good roundtable discussion. I'm going to turn to the panel first and say, you know, given our level of experience with everybody on the call here, we can probably skip a couple of these slides, but do you want to go through and highlight a few things before we jump into some questions? Well,
Go
Lewis,
ahead, Mark,
I'll
whatever you want to do.
first, since you put together some of the slides, yeah?
Sure, we can go for it.
All right. So kind of guide me here. We probably skip that, yeah?
Yeah, we had a 0% for question number 1. So
Exactly. Probably pretty straightforward here as well.
maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe for more of the technical people. I find that a lot of the sales order processing people, they don't really understand the flow of EDI documents. So if you're not real familiar, you can go direct with your trading partner with your documents, or you can have one or more what they call VANs, value-added networks, in between. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about that, but that's just basically what this slide is illustrating. And I'm sure we're missing many, but those are some of the value-added networks that are out there.
Is that still needed?
I find that a lot of the big companies, the big trading partners, are using VANs rather than going direct to themselves. So I don't know about the others on the panel, but I go direct with a few, but usually there's 1 or 2 VANs involved in the EDI that we're processing.
Yeah. So we do a combination as well, where we sort of decide it based on the size of the customer, whether we're going to use a VAN or a direct connect. So when they have a larger footprint, the amount of data, then we're going to pull them off the VAN to reduce the cost and do the AS2 direct. So
We take the same approach at Osprey. We kind of have a hodgepodge, but we push for an AS2 connection wherever possible. Usually the ROI is there in paying for that additional AS2 host.
Okay. Lewis, yeah, go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, this is just a list of some of the ISVs and solutions, EDI solutions that are available for Business Central and Nav.
And of course, we'll post these slides so everybody's got the links as well. So good
Probably
resource there.
worth noting on that
Mhm.
list, Data Masons is now part of SPS Commerce.
Hmm.
I believe that was a relatively recent acquisition.
Good catch.
Yeah.
Good catch. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. Most of, well, I only know about half these names. Have all of them been around for quite a while in the NAV and now BC space?
I know Lanham and Data Mason / SPS have been around for quite a while.
Right.
Lanham
And
is
True
offered
Commerce has been
solutions for a
around.
long time.
And True Commerce just keeps gobbling up other ones also, like SPS does.
Mm-hmm.
They just bought DI Central.
Yeah, that's the first time I've seen a lot of these names as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise.
It continues to grow, huh? I would think so.
Yeah.
And is the growth, is it a combination of being requested by larger trading partners just because it makes good sense and good ROI? What's driving the growth?
At Osprey, we've actually seen a lot of our kind of mid-range retailers who, 8 years ago maybe just were a mom and pop shop. Maybe they opened a couple doors. They're starting to request more and more. I think really as SPS Commerce has made EDI more achievable for smaller businesses. You don't have to have the dedicated in-house person anymore. And I think that's probably a major contributor to the growth that we're seeing. At least in the outdoor space, that's where the majority of the new requests are coming from.
I found that sorry, in the past, EDI was driven more by our trading partners, our customers. And in the last maybe 3 years, I think we've been driving more of it actually to try to bring down the amount of data entry as we grow and our volume increases.
yeah, we've been seeing sort of the same trend, and then we're not just using it with our customers, but we're also doing it with our third-party logistics providers. So we've seen where before we had a warehouse, now we have third-party logistics, and now almost 100% of our data volume for sales orders have to go through that. So it's become a big part of our business as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're also in that boat. We use it with our freight forwarder and 2 3PL warehouses and maybe a third one. So a large part of our trading volume is about to move that direction as well.
Yeah. So let's spend some time on this slide because this is one of the key areas for my questions was,
I think David, do you have a question?
Yeah, real fast. Have you found that the volume changed during the pandemic of suppliers and the people in the network, the trading partners wanting or requiring you to go to EDI?
I did with a lot of the online ordering. So a lot of the customers that I help support that do online, last year's online business was 4 times. So the volume was high. And then some of their smaller customers too, their vendors starting to require more EDI. So we did see it increase.
Yeah, we just been seeing a lot more volume with like that smaller online type shopping as well. I wouldn't say our online customers, the ones that are posting on, Amazon or those guys, but I definitely seen a lot more data coming through from just consumer.
So Lewis, comment on this slide. Like I said, was saying I'm particularly interested in the changes that are happening, new technologies. If this is becoming a little bit more simplified for the common customer, right? Common business, and that's driving some of the growth as well.
Right. Yeah, I put this slide together because this was kind of one of your discussion topics that you gave us, and
Yeah.
I saw future of EDI. I'm like, I just know what I do. So I didn't really have much insight onto what the future is. Maybe some of the other panelists can, but I did a little research, and these are a few of the topics that came up. So I don't really know what blockchain is. It'd be interesting to hear about that. XML is it's really a format of how the data is put together, and that's been growing in the EDI realm for quite a while now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's been growing to the point now where I believe Lanham offers XML to EDI as part of their product.
Is XML for using XML for EDI better?
Honestly, I haven't used it, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've never had a. I mean, I've done XML as a consultant, but inside with the Lanham product, we did use XML when we were doing EDI through SPS Commerce, but we've moved off to have SPS Commerce and are going direct to our customers. And all of that has been EDI. No one's requested XML. Now you could use XML for APIs, though. That's not true EDI.
Right.
I have used XML with Lanham Associates. We used a couple of files with them, and there was no problem. It fed in perfectly fine.
I hope it lowers the barriers to entry. You know, it's just a much more commonly accessible, commonly understood format.
It's a format that other applications are able to read.
Right.
Excel, for example. I mean,
yeah, that was the idea for Data Masons, which is now SPS Commerce, really. They wanted to have the option to do just XML. So when you get Data Masons or SPS, the product itself, their EDI transporting, they handle all that stuff, and it's translated to an XML document when it goes into NAV or BC. So in BC, when you use Data Masons, you don't have to deal with any EDI formatting or anything like that. That's all done based on the XML definition within BC, and that just sends it out to their product, or vice versa.
Right.
Yeah, you're still dealing with it. It's just dealing with it at a different level. You're dealing with it before it gets into the ERP system.
Exactly, yeah. But SPS takes care of that part. So that's the difference between, and that's actually why I wanted to join, to see if there's alternatives to the, the only ones that I know are Lanham, where you have to set everything up yourself, and an SPS where you just basically set up the communication with them, and they take care of the documents themselves. And so I was just curious to hear, if there are any alternatives to those two that are also working well.
Well, I do know that Clio's offering a any-to-any type through their cloud solution. So that's one place that I didn't see anything in here with cloud, but that's another area where it's going, I think.
Yep.
And Daniel, to your point, I think to taking a Lanham and an SPS Commerce and Data Mason, everything's happening, and then we're just feeding into Business Central or the ERP what we need, versus with Lanham, we bring everything in, then decide what we're going to do with it. We might store that information. NAV doesn't need it, but we need it going back out. So there's a lot of different complexities there. It just kind of depends. I see some customers go one way or another, depending on if they have in-house, they want to have control over the maps. When the maps are changing, they can go in and make changes, versus, an SPS or one of those value-added companies. The maps are just updated for you.
Yeah,
exactly.
And part of what I saw when I came in, my task was to migrate off of SPS into Lanham, and having to support both. And realistically speaking, if I needed to resend or fix some data, I had to go into an XML file, try to find out what field that I needed to fix, and then requeue that XML file. it was very difficult to maintain. Where with the Lanham, you just go into a screen and nav, and you're able to just update the data there and then resend it to the partner. So you do lose a little bit of, I would say, the ability to manage and touch the data when you push it out outside of the nav BC world.
Right. Yeah. And that was a conscious I was actually involved with their first foray into, and I'm talking about data masons. That first connector that they had, I developed that was my first freelance gig. And their assignment was, we don't want to store any of the data in nav. We just want a connector that goes straight into the sales order, for instance. And they would handle all that stuff. So that information is available, as far as I understand, on their portal. So if you want to go drill down into the EDI data itself, you have to log into the portal. So I totally get that, where you want everything in one place. You don't want to have to go into multiple systems. But the other thing that I thought was a kind of an issue with the Lanham one is that you had to get a full eShip in order to activate EDI. You couldn't have just EDI. So is there like any product where you can have the maps and everything in BC without having to add, you know, something like eShip on top of that as well?
I know what's becoming common is InsightWorks. And then what it will do, instead of using that ASN and that's why you needed the Lanham eShip, was to build that whole bill of lading ASN. So now what they're doing is, because you still probably need some kind of shipping integration, because you're UPS, FedEx, LTL, all of that kind of fun stuff. So they're coming into the license plate. So probably depending on what shipping solution you have in Business Central will determine what they're gonna map into to get that information.
And what was the other name that you mentioned?
InsightWorks.
InsightWorks.
Insight.
Insight.
Insight. IN.
Oh, Insight.
And then I think we have a question too.
Hi guys, this is Andrea from Stonewall Kitchen. I just wanted to chime in too. I am not an EDI expert, but we do EDI here. And we use, unless it's been purchased by someone else since, I don't see it on the list. You guys might set me straight, but we use BC EDI. So that's a nav module or nav add-on. And why we picked that, and we also use it in conjunction with SPS. So we don't really want to be in the detailed business of EDI. So we leverage SPS for sort of the mapping to the 100 customers. And then through BC EDI, we map Navision to SPS. And we love the fact that it's totally embedded in nav. And then we have a separate WMS solution that handles all the shipping. So it can be done, or at least that's the way that we've done it, or our lineup. So I just wanted to mention that.
So BC is Beck Consulting. They were the partner that built the original SPS connector between Business Central. It just coincidentally it's BC and BC. But my understanding is now with the Data Masons acquisition of SPS by SPS, they're no longer partnered with Beck for future customers. They're still supporting the legacy connector, but they're moving completely to the Data Masons product for the entire NAV BC customer base or future customer base.
That's super promising. And
pardon me?
Oh, sorry, Dave. I was going to say that sounds exciting. And my understanding was we could have had any SPS type partner and still used BC EDI. You're right, Beck's solution. That it didn't have to go with SPS. So even if SPS is more tightly intertwined to Data Masons, I would think that if you saw advantages to using the BC EDI solution, you could use it with any EDI partner as well.
My understanding is the same too. From the partner side, it was always a challenge for us when I was on the partner side, to bring in another partner. Like if you're now working with Beck, already, why would we want to introduce you to another consulting company? And that's what part of why I think SPS went with that strategy, to lessen that channel conflict in the future. Because that was the one, as a partner, when I was recommending to my customers, I would consider who owned the connector. Then why would I want to introduce a second partner into the mix? Because it was a direct relationship with Beck that would happen.
Sure. Yeah, and
Yep.
it's worth mentioning, Beck is not our NAV partner, our BC partner, but we went solution first and then talked to our partner saying, this is the solution we want to add. We did it. So, I appreciate and very much respect the partner relationship. At the same time, different partners have different tools. And so we've been able to cobble a few things together like that. So don't let it hold you back. If you want it, go for it.
Exactly.
I'm curious about Lanham as well. Early on with the transition of BC, they had to rewrite, if I understood it right, had to rewrite a lot of code, right, to get it to work. Does anybody have an update? Are they fully caught up with the versions and have been keeping up now?
Yeah, they are now. We have a bit of a complex setup with a DMZ involved, and we had some trouble kind of getting it all working, but we finally figured it all out and have it tested. I need to go in and do some final testing, but it is up and working and written fully in extensions.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're in the middle of doing that too, moving from BC 14, which has both extensions and the legacy code, to now moving on to the final extension solution. So it is a bit of a process. Yeah. But I think in the end, and we're not going to the cloud, or we're still in house. So we're still hosting the solution ourselves. So, but that does open up the door. Yeah, that does open up the door to in the future if it really makes sense to go there. I will say though, one of the things we did put our AS2 in the cloud, with the Azure, and it's made a big difference because we're now no longer worried about our internet connection going down, at least not from the external partner perspective. And even if you're doing VANs, you still can use AS2 as the vehicle to connect to that VAN, as opposed to doing an FTP or something that's not as secure. So keep that in mind.
Interesting. Bill, when you say you moved it into the cloud,
no, yes, yeah.
Do you do that? Is that you do that internally? Do you get help with that?
No, we did that internally. Yeah, we just worked with Clio to determine the licensing and all of that. We already had Azure in the mix a bit, so it was just creating a VM in Azure, and then being able to migrate the AS2 solution to the Azure VM. Okay. And from there, the back end, it's a little tricky, I have to say, but so you need to definitely test a lot before you flip that switch. But as with anything, I'd say, when you go in EDI, don't try to bring in 100 partners. Let's start with, the low-hanging fruit and get some understanding of how that's working, and then you can ramp up.
Right, absolutely. I know we do want to talk about some lessons learned. I want to see what else we've got on the slides real quick before we come back to a couple other questions. Got some additional resources. Again, we'll load these slides up. Probably don't need to.
Yeah, we'll stop kind of to Bill's point. Go back one more here. So this is what I've done in the past. this is just kind of an overview of kind of understanding the flow of different documents, which I think this panel probably knows. But typically we would do an 846, which is inventory availability. Then that will go in. So then that way, if you're doing online ordering, so for example, here Kohl's will know what your inventory is. I've had some customers send 100% of their inventory, and sometimes you can do maybe like an 80% of it or certain percent if you're using this item across multiple platforms. Then the end user would place an order. It would come in as a purchase order, then come into Business Central, the sales order. You would ship it, you'd get your 856, and then kind of go that way. So this really was just kind of a flow of EDI transactions. But I think, do you guys have any questions on that? It's pretty straightforward. But here, what I wanted to talk about was kind of to Bill's point. I've had some customers, especially in a transition, they may have 20, 30, sometimes 75 trading partners. Well, flipping these all on at one time is just, maddening. But this will kind of keep you, I like to keep track of, the trading partners, if you've got a target date, what your status is. The other thing, just knowing what documents are required. Are you going to do a UCC label, what your qualifiers are, your trading partner ID, and then you can kind of keep track of this, because that helps when, you may have, this happens to be a jewelry company. I've done a lot of jewelry companies, but, you may have Helzberg store and you may have Helzberg online, but you may have them different documents. You may have them in a different testing phase. So just kind of keeping track of that. Any questions? And this one I actually pulled from a Walmart talking about test case scenarios. What I like to do if we're kicking off a new project, getting the mapping, but then also knowing what those test cases are going to be. So as we're building different things, we know normally you would start at the top, the first case and kind of work your way through, and then at the very end. But, having that idea up front makes it nice as you're starting to build everything and knowing what you're going to test. Questions?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I thought we had one more slide here. Yeah.
Oh, and then this is just fun. Getting started, knowing your document numbers, the different ones here. But like I said, with this team here, I don't think I have to go into a ton of details. You guys probably already know what a lot of these are. But anyway, just kind of a fun little slide here.
Yeah, ours is like double that with the 3PL.
I know, I didn't even touch 3PL.
Yeah, no, that's a whole different animal. But
all right, so what questions does everybody have for the panel here? Where do you want to go from here?
Is anybody working with someone who is hosting their own EDI? Or your customers? Like the big players like Walmart, are they hosting their own EDI now?
I think Walmart and Amazon have developed their systems out quite a bit. So.
And none of you have heard any of those big players talking about blockchain yet?
Amazon is talking about API at this point. We're looking into that possibly in the next 12 months, moving that relationship off of EDI and onto an API.
Wow.
But I haven't heard anyone pushing us for blockchain at this point.
Is that thankfully they haven't, or kind of wish you would?
I think it'll be a good test case for us.
Right.
Right now we aren't heavily integrated, via API with anything beyond our direct commerce. We use the old ChargeLogic Connect product, which now is VersaPay. And we've loved it. It's been great. So we're certainly interested to at least stand it up in our develop environment and just see what that relationship is like with them. we certainly don't feel an obligation to move forward if the ROI isn't there, if it changes our process to the point it's just not sustainable at the moment. But we think it'll kind of be a good test case just to, dip our toes in the water and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised that any of the legacy players are going to be moving. Like I saw Ted Johnson's comment. Yeah, blockchain's still new tech, and EDI doesn't move that quickly. And coming into this business in the 90s, late 90s, I remember 1999, XML was going to replace legacy EDI. That was going to be the next thing. And yes, we talked about XML earlier, but we're still doing legacy X12, Edifact, and it's sure there you've seen some EBXML, other things show up in very niche areas. So I don't see something like blockchain replacing what these companies like Walmart and even talking about it, I can't see that even Amazon requiring all of their suppliers to go to blockchain or some sort of API. It's just because they're not ready for it.
It's too much infrastructure for their partners, especially because Amazon particularly, they have a lot of smaller partners that sell through them, and I just don't see that being ready. But I was curious since it was listed on there. And Bill, you made me giggle when you talked about what the prediction was in the late 90s, because that's also when we were going paperless, if you recall.
Yeah, right.
Although, yeah, we've definitely seen, a lot of accounting and a lot of paperless type stuff. I think this pandemic really pushed a lot of that. Yes. Companies that were sort of like, or not even companies, but even departments within companies that say, "Oh no, we can't get rid of our paper." Mm-hmm. Now are like, well, yeah, we're just going to scan this and be done with it. So
it only took us 30 years, right?
Yeah, 30 years and a huge
pandemic, right?
A huge pandemic, yeah, change in the way we do business. I mean, we used to get 3 to 5 days work from home, and you had to have a very good reason for it. Now we've been 18 months, so it's
you have to have a really
change.
good reason to go into the office.
That's exactly right. We had, when we started opening up the office, it's like you had to register to go in. So
Andrea had a question she wrote in the chat while we were talking about blockchain. I just lost it. Josh, different topic. Do you use Avalara along with ChargeLogic or VersaPay?
Yeah, we do. We do. I was just replying in the chat there. We have, we're potentially looking to maybe move away from Avalara to a product called TaxJar. We're scoping that now. We'll know in the next week or two whether or not we're going to move forward with that. We have, for the most part, it's been smooth. There have been a few pain points, but all in all, it's worked out fairly well through the ChargeLogic connected with them. We have our website hosted externally through a company called Zane Ray, and we have to be in lockstep with them. Sometimes we might see issues between their API call to Avalara and ours, especially if we're going across the month or something. And the tax rate has changed. We can see some issues there, but yeah, by and large, it's relatively smooth.
Nice, thank you. I didn't mean to publicly derail the conversation from EDI, so thanks for commenting on that. Yeah, we're looking at some upgrade challenges, but we'll deal with that on a different day.
Yeah, Andrea, I'm happy to hop on a call with you on that.
Awesome,
one too.
thank you. Yep,
no worries.
Thanks. The one other thing I was going to say about EDI, which unless I missed it, I'm surprised that you guys didn't talk about the fact that, well, first of all, EDI is, XML, that's great, new things that are coming, but EDI is old. And I don't think it will ever go away because it's too deeply embedded with too large of an industry set. But the whole point of EDI was to have standards, and there's nothing standard about it. And that's the first thing you learn with EDI. So for anyone who's about to take this on, do not be fooled by the word standard. Everyone is a little bit different and unique and challenging. So
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. 'Cause that's what I
That's
usually
true.
say too. It's like a standard nobody follows, right? But
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll add to that as well. Be prepared to test them according to their standards, and then have everything change when you actually go live.
I've had that as well, yeah. And then there are multiple standards. Edifact was mentioned a while ago. I don't know anyone doing their own mapping. If anyone here is doing Edifact, I just started with our first customer over in the UK. So, you know, once you think you've learned whatever you need to learn, then there's more to learn.
so the other thing I would bring up too, and I've had this several times, that even though you get the mapping guide, I also ask for a test file, because you'll be surprised how what they're actually sending you is not what's in the mapping guide. And I've had to change based on that. And had I not seen that, we would have hopefully found it in testing. But I always have them give me the sample file, even if it's just kind of made up items, because it is sometimes different.
Yeah, you can even get the sample file, and it's going to be totally different when you go to production. So
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And a lot of the larger trading partners now have kind of automated testing where you log onto a portal, you punch in a few of the item numbers of your item numbers and some other basic information, and then you start testing. You start sending documents back and forth that way.
yeah, that's going to be like your Amazons and your Walmarts. They're really good about that. So
You can even control your AS2 connection from Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is an area I wanted to come back to for the panel is, yeah, lessons learned, gotchas, or really anybody else that wants to share some insights along those lines.
By the way, Rob has his hand up.
Oh, Rob, where'd you go?
I have a question for Josh. Josh, you happen, and I'm sorry, it's off EDI. It's related based on the question that was asked earlier. Curious to know about your decision to move to TaxJar. Is there some additional functionality you're getting that's related to your?
There's a multitude of reasons.
All right, we'll leave it at that then. You don't have to address this.
Yeah,
I'll reach out to you separately.
A couple of the big ones, obviously cost is huge. TaxJar is a much cheaper solution. Less API calls with TaxJar, that's a huge one. You know, we're kind of in a point now where anytime if Avalara has a service degradation, like our direct consumer shipping is dead in the water, then we can't have that. So, and it seems that with TaxJar, we're making those calls kind of once a day, and then, you know, storing the tax rates internally just makes life a lot easier for us. So those are kind of the big ones.
Thank you.
Hey, Ted just posted a question. Does anyone use a punch system? I've had multiple requests from state agencies to integrate to a punch down. I think it's an Oracle thing. The standard is more like a guideline. Oh, that was another comment. Yeah, sorry.
I've never heard of a punch system.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Other questions, or go ahead.
I was just going to, I guess, reiterate, but some of the things the panel said about testing. Oh my gosh, you know, again, test. We have an occasional customer who will say, "Oh, we don't test. Just build to the standard. We don't test." We always insist on testing. We insist on a test file. You know, I think I was born a skeptic, so until I can see it, I don't believe it. And even then, but Shawn, I appreciated you even showing, you can tell, obviously you guys have done this, but the screenshot that you had of just your spreadsheet of keeping detailed track of the documents and the customers and the status. And, you know, we were rolling out 50 at the same time, and you just could lose your mind, but just be as organized as possible and methodical as possible. And we also have the thing where it's sort of, it seems like it's one customer, but you have 3 different sort of EDI customers or implementations with them. So, yeah.
I'll tell a quick story that you guys can share. And this is true. I've only had one customer that did not test, and it was Walgreens. And so basically what ended up happening is a month went by, they weren't paying their invoices. So every night we were trying to fix stuff, everything was broken. 4 weeks into it, I got a call from the president and the CFO, and they wanted to know why they were going to have to go in to the bank and explain why their AR was $5.5 million, because Walgreens wouldn't pay off the invoices because ASNs weren't right, all this stuff wasn't right. So after that, I swore, it's like, if you're not going to test, I'm not going to help you go live. You are on your own. Because that was the most painful 6 weeks. And we ended up getting it fixed, and 8 weeks later, they started paying the invoices and stuff like that. But it was very, very painful and stressful. And those are not the conversations you want to have, or the calls. You do not want to get those calls. I'm telling you.
Nope.
Right, Bill?
No, I totally agree. I mean, that was one of the reasons they brought me in, was because our invoices weren't getting to where they needed to be. And so, yes, that's an interesting process. Test. I totally agree.
Sounds like a very quick way to get into a lot of chargebacks if you don't.
Well, no matter what you do, you're going to get into a lot of chargebacks, but
Yeah.
They'll always find
Just
something.
trying to minimize them.
But getting those test files that Shawn was talking about, that's a good way to show that you were actually programming to specs or putting the maps together to specs that they provided.
Yeah, and typically,
Ammunition for rework.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and typically we'll even go ahead and pull that test file, and we'll run through the entire process before we even step into testing formally. It's not our own.
yeah, definitely. Well, because I mean, you need to sort of unit test before you want to do any kind of system integration type testing with the customer. So if you can get up front, definitely helps you a lot. I don't know, from our perspective, is I have a couple of different sales managers, and so some are a little more hands-on than others and understand the process a little bit better than others. So you might land up holding hands a little more for certain individuals within your organization, but that's part of what we do, right?
I got a small piece of advice on the chargebacks. Just don't accept them. I think that's an easy way to deal with them. So, that's my contribution for the hour.
Raise your prices, cover them.
I was going to say, take it out of their
Exactly,
discount.
cover them.
It's just, we are somehow so quickly coming up at the top of the hour. So let me make a last call for questions. Anybody who has a question for discussion or for the panel?
No, but you've given me some flashbacks to horror stories, especially Shawn. So thanks for that, Shawn.
You're welcome. I'm here for you, Belinda.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So final thoughts from the panel, lessons learned, gotchas. We didn't get to circle back around to discussing ROI on all of this, but any thoughts around any of that?
Just one maybe lesson learned from us at Osprey. We have lots of fingers in the EDI jar, so to speak. We really hold the core of it between myself and our EDI coordinator, Eli, who I believe is also on this call, and in the IT department. But it's just like was just mentioned. There's a lot of value in having people in sales and finance, know what the heck is going on beyond just I push this button and it does a thing and this supposedly goes. We keep, multiple people in our sales department trained up, and at this point they're pretty self-service with even fixing their own documents. So it makes them a lot more conscious of what they're doing with these orders in the system, which helps us not have so many broken documents going out. So definitely some value in having more than just yourself, or more than just one or two people trained in it in the organization.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Josh,
that is,
I'm so glad you said that. We actually, because we were getting in, people didn't know what was going on. So we formed a trio of IT, sales, quad, IT, sales, finance, and the warehouse. And they meet depending on the volume, either bi-weekly or monthly, to not only look at new customers that are coming online, but daily issues, because the warehouse would suffer in silence. And when they would mention it, the salesperson would be like, oh my gosh, I'll call them and ask them not to do that anymore. Or like, oh, I didn't know they weren't paying their invoices, or I didn't know those were erroring out. So it's like IT is not moving forward without all 4 groups in coordination working together going forward. So that's my tip. I love that. I'm glad you said that.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to do the same thing. We take our internal ROI process.
Right. You mentioned the warehouse, and I landed up moving my office to the warehouse 2 times a week just to be able to see what was going on. They were on labels. They were on the back of the label writing what the product was. We could just, if they would have told us, we could just very easily just print a small little on the front of the label, and it wouldn't even affect the customer at all, because that would help them to easily determine where that label needed to go. But yeah, they were, you had to go sit there with them before you could see what they're. So what are you doing? You're writing on it on the back of the label? No. We'll take care of that for you. Boom. All the labels were updated, and but unless you're doing the job or sitting there with them, you don't know.
Yeah.
What pain points they're having.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Excellent.
I was going to say, I agree with Andrea's point about having others kind of trained on how the data flows, what the necessary setups are. If you can catch a lot of those errors before they occur, that's certainly helpful. I learned the hard way, and knowing Lanham and mapping, I don't know if this applies to some of the other solutions, but on mandatory data that goes on outbound documents, you can set a minimum length on those fields. So if they're empty, you can catch them before they go out, which has been very helpful as well.
That saves you a lot of time and effort, right?
Nice.
You can also set a max value if you've got a troubled trade partner that likes to accidentally nuke their own orders, and you can catch them coming in too.
Wow. All righty, folks. I have just posted into the chat a survey link. Always interested in making these very enjoyable and very valuable for you. So make sure you let us know your feedback. I will go ahead and remind you that our next month is talking about year-end prep. We'll follow up with you to get your suggestions on tips and tricks around that topic. And you can get that on your calendar. And yeah, I didn't want to squeeze it in right before Thanksgiving, so we can come back afterwards and share Thanksgiving stories. And with that, folks, as always, very appreciative of you taking the time, especially for our panel who put in a lot of prep getting ready for this. Thank you very much. Shawn and Bill and Josh and Louis, thank you very much for getting on the hot seat today. I bet there are going to be some questions that come up afterwards. People started thinking through a few things. Go ahead, post those in I think it's called the comments section out on the meetup group. I'll keep an eye on that. If you have a question for one of the panelists, I'll get that forwarded to them, and we can just continue the discussion there. With that, everybody, thanks very much for joining. Hope you're enjoying a colorful fall. Looking forward to Halloween and certainly the months to come, wrapping up 2021. We'll post the recording out there on YouTube. Everybody have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you.